While the OnePlus 8 has been around for around 6 months now, the OnePlus 8T is the new kid on the block, packing a newer and improved set of features. But newer isn't always better and old isn't always gold. So let's find out today which of these two phones makes for a better buy, especially because they are priced so similarly. I'm Rohan from TechieTechTech and here we go. The OnePlus 8T should ideally be the successor to the OnePlus 8, and in a lot of ways it is a clear step up. Unfortunately, build quality and design isn't one of those areas. Granted, design is a personal preference, but it's hard to deny that the frosted glass back on the OnePlus 8 feels more premium than the glossy glass back on the OnePlus 8T. To add more fuel to the fire, the same frosted glass back as the OnePlus 8 is shared by the much more expensive OnePlus 8 Pro, while the same glossy glass back as the OnePlus 8T is shared by the much cheaper OnePlus Nord. Apart from that, both these phones feel really good in the hand. Both of them have matte finished aluminum sides coupled with glass on the front and the back. Let's look at the backs for a second. The OnePlus 8 has a camera module in the center, which is a design language that is quintessentially OnePlus. They have been putting the camera module in the center since the OnePlus 6, and the OnePlus 8 looks like a very refined version of the same design language. The OnePlus 8T, on the other hand, is a departure with its camera module to the top left. This looks a lot like Samsung's design language, and I personally don't like that. Again, design is a personal preference, and so my personal preference here is definitely the OnePlus 8. Flipping over to the display, the OnePlus 8T has a flat panel while the OnePlus 8 has a curved one. While the curved panel looks more premium and flagship-like, I simply cannot deny the practical benefits of having a flat display. For starters, there are no accidental touches. Then, there is no glare on the sides when you are watching video, screen protectors are always easier to find and cheaper, and the list just goes on and on and on. Flat screens on flagship phones are slowly fading away, and I am so happy that OnePlus kept them alive by including a flat panel in the OnePlus 8T. But what about the actual quality of the displays? Well, things couldn't be more similar here. Both these phones have the same diagonal screen size, same resolution, same pixels per inch, and almost the same screen to body ratio. The only noticeable difference is that the OnePlus 8T has a higher refresh rate at 120Hz compared to the OnePlus 8 at 90Hz. Frankly, that's not much of a difference in real world use. Jumping from 60Hz to 90Hz was huge and noticeable, but 90 to 120, while noticeable, is not that big. But hey, since both these phones are priced very close to each other, we'll pick the 120Hz because you're not paying much more for that upgrade anyway. But actual color quality wise, both these phones have stunning displays. Remember how Samsung used to be the king when it came to displays and no one even came close? Well, use the OnePlus 8 or the OnePlus 8T and you will realize that OnePlus did come quite close. The displays are stunning to look at with sharp and crispy details, excellent colors and incredible vibrance. What's more, both these phones are free of issues like black crush, red tint and more that are found on the larger and more expensive OnePlus 8 Pro. OnePlus has done an excellent job with both these displays. Let's talk about the software and performance now. Frankly, there's absolutely nothing to compare here. Much like the displays, both the OnePlus 8 and OnePlus 8T have more similarities than differences here. In this particular case, the only hardware difference is that the OnePlus 8T has UFS 3.1 storage compared to the UFS 3.0 on the OnePlus 8. Apart from that, both of these phones have the same Snapdragon 865 CPU, Adreno 650 GPU running over the exact same software. It is at times like these that while I write this review, I wonder why did OnePlus even bother making the 8T when they already had the super similar OnePlus 8. Anyway, I have used the OnePlus 8 on Oxygen OS 11 extensively and I have been using the OnePlus 8T for a few days now, and the differences in software experience are basically negligible. Frankly, it's like a race between two sports cars, except that both the cars have the same engine and the same driver. Now that we are done with this terrible analogy, the point is that both these phones are crazy fast. With their best-in-class flagship internals and the quick animations of Oxygen OS, both these phones absolutely race through everything you throw at them, be it day-to-day stuff like WhatsApp and Instagram or heavier stuff like Call of Duty and Adobe Rush. If you're wondering which phone to pick out of these two, my first and only piece of advice would be don't try to pick on the basis of performance because you simply cannot. Let's talk cameras now. The major difference between the OnePlus 8T and the OnePlus 8 is the design and placement of the rear camera module, as we talked about before in the design section. Optically, both devices sport the same sensors except an all-new 2MP monochrome camera on the OnePlus 8T. Also, for some reason the OnePlus 8T has an extra flash. Anyway, let's compare the photos first and then the videos. Since the primary camera is the same on both smartphones, there is minimal difference and it lies in image processing. Stills shot on the 8T have better noise processing, fewer artifacts and warmer tones. On the other hand, the OnePlus 8 produces sharper stills with similar contrast, colors and HDR processing. The ultra-wide camera performance is again almost identical. The only differences we found were that the 8T has a wider field of view while the picture shot on the OnePlus 8 was slightly sharper with more details. Moving to the portrait mode, both smartphones take fairly good portraits in terms of colors and bokeh. There are minor differences in color temperatures. The OnePlus 8T had some subject separation issues while shooting in low light conditions, but this is something that we can expect to be fixed with future software updates. Switching to the front camera, both devices produce almost indistinguishable selfies with minor white balance differences. Even though the macro camera has been upgraded from 2MP on the OnePlus 8 to 5MP on the 8T, the pictures shot with both cameras are still pretty bad. The 8T sports an additional 2MP monochrome camera. It is there to assist the main sensor, but it can also be used to capture black and white stills. Honestly, they look pretty cool. The low light performance on the OnePlus 8T is a little better than the OnePlus 8 in terms of sharpness and luminance while shooting with the primary lens. We noticed a decent amount of vignetting in pictures shot using the ultra-wide lens in nightscape mode on the 8T. Moving on to the videos, in terms of resolutions and frame rates, both devices are at par. They can shoot up to 4K at 60fps from the rear cameras and at Full HD at 30fps from the front camera. The footage out of both devices looks very similar in terms of colors, HDR and autofocus speed. There are some minor color temperature and exposure differences, but they are pretty negligible. Some vignetting is also visible while shooting with the ultra-wide camera on the OnePlus 8T in low light conditions. We also found that the 8T had better OIS performance while shooting photos and videos. As mentioned earlier, the OnePlus 8T and the OnePlus 8 sport identical camera hardware and software. Moreover, both cameras are capable of shooting really good pictures and videos and have this set of minor inconveniences like random software bugs. But if you're looking for a smartphone camera for both casual and professional use, you can't go wrong with either of them since the camera experience provided by both of them is largely the same. Talking about the battery life, we have a 4300mAh battery in the OnePlus 8 compared to 4500mAh on the 8T. The OnePlus 8 has good battery life, easily lasts a day on mid to heavy use and can be stretched to a day and a half without much effort, roughly 5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time. Talking about the 8T, the battery life seems slightly better with roughly 20-30 more minutes of screen on time. But look, the OnePlus 8 I have here is a 4-5 month old phone and the 8T here is brand new, so maybe that difference is because of the fresh battery pack in the 8T compared to the 5-month used battery pack on the OnePlus 8. Where the main difference arises is charging. The OnePlus 8 supports Warp Charge 30T for lightning fast charging, which is one of my favorite features of OnePlus phones in general. The OnePlus 8T takes it a step further and supports a crazy 65W fast charging, which makes the OnePlus 8's fast charging look slow. No, seriously, OnePlus claims that you can do a 0 to 100 on the OnePlus 8T in around 40 minutes, and I believe them because I've seen it with my own eyes. Now OnePlus has managed to do this by including two separate battery packs which charge simultaneously. What that means for the long-term battery health is still unknown, and only time will tell how this battery fares in the long run. But all in all, it is just great that companies like OnePlus are including better and better charging technologies in the box with the phone with every new generation, while companies like Apple with twice or thrice the price are even removing that terrible 5-watt charger that they used to give. When we talk about biometrics, it is basically the same story. Great optical fingerprint unlock that works equally well on both the phones, basically the same hardware. One tiny difference that I did notice is that the haptics and the speakers seem to be slightly better on the OnePlus 8T. Again, not a huge difference, not something that matters if you're deciding between the two phones, but something I noticed and shared with you guys. Let's talk about the phone call experience. I actually got unexpected results here. While the earpiece quality, loudspeaker and mic quality on both the phones is largely the same, I found that the OnePlus 8 held on to a signal better than the OnePlus 8T. I don't know if it was an isolated finding in my network coverage conditions, but at the same spot the OnePlus 8 seemed to get stronger signals compared to the OnePlus 8T. This is not something that altered the experience of using these phones, but if you live in an area with spotty network coverage, maybe it is something that you could take into consideration. To conclude, the OnePlus 8T and OnePlus 8 are very similar phones at very similar price points. The OnePlus 8T is a tad bit better in a lot of tiny areas, and so spending that extra money to get it makes sense because while the upgrades are not huge, so is the price difference. The only place where the OnePlus 8 truly trumps the OnePlus 8T is the flagship look and feel, although again that is personal preference. If in the future there is a deal of some sort and the price difference between these two increases, just get the cheaper one. They are both very similar and the smart choice would not be the OnePlus 8 or the 8T, but saving your money. I hope you liked this video guys, and if you did, please like it, share it and subscribe to our channel to support us. Ask us your questions in the comment section below. Until then, this is Rohan from TechieTechTech and I will see you in the next video. Bye.